Hello and welcome to this month's coffee break. My name is Andrew Miller, your host. I'm joined by Lou and Dmitri. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are here to talk about when evergreen dreams meet migration realities, professional services, and you. Before we dive in, though, pull the music down here a little bit. And this is, as always, a series. Thank you so much for joining us for the Coffee Break series. You can find the previous ones, which in my opinion, age a little bit better than maybe other webinar formats. It's partly a little more podcasty, as well as they're solution focused. You know, we had a security focus and previously. You can find all of these on purestorage.com/events, as well as all the other series that Pure does. Some that are more technically focused, customer focused, some of our kind of big bang events. You can find previous replays as well. In case you joined us for the coffee card part of Coffee Break, hey, the first 1,000 participants to register and attend a $10 coffee gift card. You'll receive those in about a week from Olivia. As always, thanks to Olivia and Manisha and Simon and Don. Everyone helps us out on these. And there are some folks where we greatly appreciate you attending, but if you fall in these categories, we can't send you cards. I think you know why. Getting into intros, though, in this case, as we're talking about professional services and migrations, I'm not going to introduce myself every time, but a little bit of my background in this. Preparing for this topic with Dmitri and Lou actually took me back a little bit to when I was a NetWare admin, and we would do overnight upgrades going from like NetWare 4 to 5 or 5 to 6, and the Mountain Dew out of the break room fridge was free, and the pizza was free, and you'd start at like 8 p.m. and finish sometime Saturday morning, afternoon, depending on how it went, so I've lived some of this. And sometimes you were doing a mix of migrating data and platforms, etc. But enough about me. I'm joined by two excellent folks. Lou, do you mind introducing yourself first?
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, I was copied. I didn't have to type 30, but I've been around the block. I've done everything from sweep floors in a data center as an engineer. You get some of the grunt work, to really becoming solution focused and just really just hyper focusing on getting in front of the customer and articulating what I think can help them, and then delivering on it. Fortunate for me, I'm a super proud girl dad and live in New York City.
That was awkward. Apologies there.
No worries.
Rolled with it well. That was the hot key that bit me. Maybe it was just because I was truly so excited to get to Dmitri, even though I appreciate the proud girl dad.
That is time. Come on, Andrew.
It is more important, actually. Let's be real. That part is probably the most important part out of all this here. I think
it's yep, and very happy to be here. So thank you for inviting us.
Dmitri, please.
All right. Well, Dmitri Filenko, for those who try to place my accent, I moved to the States from Estonia in 2004. And I was really following my passion. My passion was always IT, and I got into the customer success roles in 2008-ish. And I kind of, you see my journey here, which somewhat unusual. I started at NetApp, working third shift as a support engineer, escalation. Then I got recruited to Cisco. Those who are in RTP, NC resident, Cisco is right across the street from NetApp. So instead of turning left, now I was turning right to get to work. I did some data center virtualization at Cisco. Then I went back to NetApp to start a brand new business unit, centralized service delivery center, which grew from maybe 6 people. I was one of the first 6 to maybe like about 100 in 3 years. So not a, quite rapid growth there. And now I'm at Pure, leading data migration practice globally. And on my spare time, I like to travel. You see some of the photos from my recent travels in Carolinas. And in summer, I like to enjoy water sports. That's cool. That is me.
I'm actually wondering. So I was a NetApp customer for about 7 years. We'll just be real about. We've all been different places, done different things, right? So I did have some third shift calls where I called in support. So now I'm wondering if maybe at some point I might have talked to you in the past, 15 years ago, and I forgot.
You never know. I tell you one thing: it was not a graveyard shift. A lot of people refer to third shift as great. Not at all.
Okay.
It was just as busy as all other shifts.
And yeah, and actually a great comment from Rod. So he's impressed that you went to the moon, Dmitri. So, or to outer space. So good for you. Look at that. Okay.
Yeah, this is my first foray into astrophotography. Still getting my hand on it. I sometimes see pictures of people taking Andromeda and other in some galaxies. I'll be there one day. I got my star tracker in the box. One day.
So last little bit of housekeeping. As I mentioned, this is a series. Next month, I will actually be out of the country visiting family. If you joined us last December, you would remember Jason Walker. He and I are actually on the same extended kind of global team now. He will be guest hosting along with Matt Bradford, who does amazing work on the Digital Byte series. You should check that out on YouTube. Not right now, please, but after we finish. And they're going to actually walk through both a mix of Matt's history from kind of customer to VMware to Pure, and then a little bit of behind the scenes about how when you're building out demos and public collateral, like how you think about that, how you do it well. So that's a little bit of, kind of learning into education, a different style. And then diving into some demos, maybe even live ones, we'll see, around a lot of what we've added in Pure One around resiliency scoring and anomaly detection, and even things that help from a ransomware standpoint, and even DR as a service. So a lot of good stuff coming there next month. I'll be watching as a guest, maybe even delayed because I'll be in a pretty different time zone. But diving in for this month, agenda standpoint, keeping it light as always when it's your last migration, but you still have to migrate. So first, a little bit deeper with Dmitri and Lou around professional services and lessons learned in their career. Then we're going to embrace the elephant. Sometimes that's because, hey, Pure's so simple. Why do you need professional services? Well, there's a little bit of a hint about like larger environment complexity. We'll explore that. Then diving into even some of your background, Dmitri, around building out a migration center of excellence at Pure and previously, and then some commentary about how Pure helps with migration. A lot of our partners do great work there too, both alliance partners and kind of channel partners, if you will. And thanks to Don and Simon, we have folks to help with Q&A in the background as well. So please feel free to put things into the Q&A as we go along. We may incorporate them live, or we will have time. We'll usually try and end around 45 minutes after the hour. I think you know that. We might extend it a little bit, and some dedicated Q&A then too. Before we dive in, Olivia, if you don't mind kicking off the first poll. So this is where we keep it a little bit lighter as we start out. So when you hear migration, what comes to mind? And actually, being real, this is not from a geographical sense, from a political sense. This is meant to be from a technology sense, actually. So it always works. It's better. Don't remind me half the time. And then, have you ever been involved in a storage or application migration? And kind of what was your experience? Or maybe you're here to learn. So we will leave that sitting up in the background so that you can answer. You might comment on a little bit in a minute. Diving into topic number one. I think Lou, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. Just maybe a little bit of extended background. I know you had some service provider background. I mean, there was a whole list of interesting positions there. What are some kind of lessons learned and how you got to this point in professional services?
There were a lot, and I'd actually like to start with typically what we've learned from customers and being in service business or professional services. Customers don't know what they don't know. And a lot of times we come in and it's, in the most loving way possible. Make sure that the organization is connected and really understands the journey they're about to go on, because we want them to absorb the innovation we have into their business so they can get their ultimate outcome, which is usually zeroes down to they need to be more competitive, they need to be more agile. There's typical, I'm either trying to increase my top line, I'm trying to decrease my bottom line, or mitigate my risk, one or all of those. Yep. So, and a lot of times too, you bring in an outside party and they're telling you things you already know. So you got to walk in the room knowing that. And sometimes the third party is there to literally just get things started, just be that spark, and really respecting that position. So being in a professional services or services business, know that you enter the space that way. But also, one thing I've learned is where the world is going, where this macro trend from, let's call it traditional IT, and there's versions of that still around in many cases. Let's say the old way of doing things, it's somewhat of a maybe complicated stack. That's one context. The other context would be modern private and public cloud and mix thereof. And that includes hybrid and otherwise. And to make that shift, to make that transition, you really need to go and down a path of thinking like a service provider. And there are some big macro steps that have to happen typically, which is, and what we see, what we've learned, many lessons learned of simplifying, simplifying, and then in the path of simplifying is automating. And then the next step opens up to innovation. In this case, innovation might be in a technology case, going to the cloud, and really building yourself a service provider platform that is modern, a modern experience. So for me, that's I try to think in that macro context to really help customers.
And one thing I know that even when we were chatting, I mean, there was one, I mean, the number that stuck in my head was like 52% productivity increase.
Yeah.
Due to looking at things from a little bit bigger perspective. And sometimes folks might come to this being like, oh, it's just like install gear and set it up. No, it's a lot more holistic than that, because that's how you can drive big outcomes. Is there a story there, if you don't mind sharing it a little bit? Anonymized, of course.
Yeah, I mean, so when you go from a path, and that was very much to outsourcing the role. So, you're sometimes we personally, professionally, businesses get gripped on one way of doing things, and you just can't see the other side of that outcome. And you bring in professional service, you bring in consultants to say, help draw that picture and driving actual outcomes to a productivity gain of 53%. In this case, it was the market I was in before that I like to use a productivity gain of 53% by using video technology. And it was the company couldn't see it before without the help, without that roadmap, that gap analysis to get them from point A to point B.
Very cool. I think if you don't mind, I'll flip it around to Dmitri. You want to kind of follow down that theme of just the career arc was actually easy enough to remember from kind of NetApp to Cisco, but there's been a lot of different roles in that, I know. So lessons learned on your end, kind of themes that you've seen over the years.
Yes, they were, Andrew. Actually, I have a few, if you don't mind, and I'm going to try to incorporate somewhat of a story. So when I worked at NetApp, the storage was center of the universe, right? All you talk in the hallways was storage. When I moved to Cisco, I realized that people, for some reason, rarely talk about storage. It must not be center of the universe anymore, right? There's other things that are important, just as important, right? If not more. And that led me to kind of one of the biggest lessons that I incorporated in my role as an architect and my subsequent return to NetApp is you got to look at the things holistically. Solution is rarely just one thing. Solution is usually it's a combination of many things that gets you to the result that you're looking for. And I also realized that if you talk to the experts, they make your life easier, right? That's why they exist. They help you to get to the outcome you desire much faster, with a lot less trouble and risk, as if you would do it by yourself without having the knowledge and expertise behind it. So my sort of lesson learned and throughout the years was like, if you know what good looks like, if you have it in your head, like I want to get there, this is my end goal. Talk to folks who either walk this journey and help you to build that path, help you uncover what sits under the rocks that you might not see, and don't wait until the last moment. Right? If you know where you know what good looks like, or you know where you want to be, don't wait until the last minute and call and say, "Hey guys, I need to be there in 1 month. Can you help me out?" Probably too late, right? Start that conversation early. Experts will help you define the path, and then we'll you go from there. So that was my that was kind of my lesson learned throughout the years, and everything kind of stems from there. Like, how do you get, who are the right experts? Who do you need to bring at what points of conversation? Having an ability to see that end to end right away instead of going serially, go parallel and with the end picture in mind. So that was a big moment for me when I, opened my world outside of storage a little bit.
It actually reminds me of this is way back when my boss walked in my office and I was setting up a new product and we hadn't bought anyone to help us, professional services or paid anyone. And so he was asking, so how long is this going to take? And we had a good relationship, so it wasn't too snarky. I was like, I'll let you know when I'm done. Like, I haven't done this before. I'll let you know when I'm done, how long it takes. I think there was one other piece there though too, of for you, coming from to professional services from support, and even a little bit of kind of a personal motivation of what you saw in support that kind of drew you into professional services?
Absolutely. So the big thing for me was like switching from support, right? Support gets a lot of calls when things are broken. And I'm like, well, how can I make a difference by perhaps implementing things that are working the way they should? So following the best practices, following, that are written by a lot of failures in the field, right? That's how they come to be. And advising customers on how to optimize, how to make their environment better. And migrations, actually, if you think about it, is the perfect time to implement that as part of your vision, as part of your journey. It's a perfect time because you're already there, you know where you want to be. And it's usually not, if you making a change, you either try to innovate, right? You're trying to optimize the environment. You're trying to get ahead of the competition, to your point. A lot of times you don't want to carry that old baggage with you, right? You want to modernize in the process. You want to simplify. You want to standardize. Maybe you want to consolidate. So migration is that perfect opportunity to take on and implement all of those best practices that maybe you've been putting off because you didn't have time. And that's really what was one of the passions why I decided to go into consulting and professional services, is that specific mindset, right? How can I make things better than they were before?
Of the upward gravitational pull for me was an admin to engineer. I could set it up better. I could architect it better. Not like arrogant, just like I can see how I could make this better, kind of thing. Yeah. I think with that, I don't want to leave you out. Any last thoughts, Dmitri or Lou, before we close out the poll and go to section number 2?
Let's keep rocking.
Cool. Look in your eyes. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to end this poll and share it. Thank you for everybody. 1,500 of you actually who responded. So, I don't have any idea of what our sample set is, but we have 1,500 people respond to anything. So 44% took the snarkiest answer I put in there, embrace the pain. When you hear migration, what comes to mind? Although 28%, it always works under budget and faster than planned. I hope that's true. I hope that's not mild sarcasm if you selected that answer. Some people don't remind, but then for the folks that are here, so a large majority have been involved in migrations that went fairly well or not too well, and then some are just here to learn. Any other thoughts there before we start the next poll? Either of you.
Well, thanks for embracing the snarky comment. That was a good one. So, but the reality is, the pain sometimes comes from the people who are promising to get you there. A lot of times, it's also embracing the challenges you have to evolve as a business, and really understanding what it takes to move your business in that direction. And getting down to brass tacks, it could be something like how you manage your change process, how you interact with all the stakeholders. That causes pain that can be avoided, and especially when you rely on a method and you lean on, for example, an organization like Pure.
So Olivia, if you don't mind launching poll number 2 there, I'll let you do that one. So pretty simple. Most important reason you'd migrate to Pure. So of course we're choosing to be a little bit focused on Pure for that one. And then when you're making infrastructure purchases, how often do you have PS? Do you do it yourself? There can be various reasons there. We'll just leave that up in the background. As we move into section number 2, we actually pulled this one up based on some discussion that you had, Lou, actually was saying just what was kind of the right order to go through this.
Oh, yeah.
So there's often the question of, hey, Pure is really simple, right? It's simple to manage. It's simple to set up. Absolutely. We're not walking back any of that. But at the same time, there's migration questions. There's larger, complex landscapes. So I almost feel like, Lou, I ought to just kind of toss it over to you. Why, if you don't mind, kind of embrace a little bit of the question of Pure, why Pure as a professional services team, and so what's the philosophy? And this slide might give it away a little bit, but
yeah, and I'd like to first start out by suggesting the fact that we have a professional services organization is really just a spark to light a fire, and that fire you see going on here, this migration towards the company. Obvious on the technology front. I mean, and if you read the information in the market, is we have this technology jump, and thankfully the bet was made, and that bet seems to be perpetually paying off. Customers are also, though, and one thing that we've talked about other companies, that culturally here there is a very serious commitment to being disruptive in the sense that we see better way, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. We want you to get there, and we're just here to light that spark. We're not here to take over the world, and at the same time, we never ever would leave a customer in the lurch. So if a partner or a customer can't do it themselves, don't worry. We'll be here to we got your back. So any mix would work. And we really noted, hey, we have to keep stoking this fire as well. We have a responsibility to do that within the organization. So why? There's a lot of whys this is happening too. If you jump to the next slide, the for us, the keeping the customer outcome at the center, and there are many of why the migration is happening to Pure, but we prompt this particular question in our process and have this whole solution assurance method, and we'll be really rigorous. And it has to do with what's gonna. It's great. We don't want to quote unquote the typical leave boxes at the door and good luck. That's not how we do business. As a matter of fact, when you think about how we approach issues, and 70% of our tickets that are generated, that there's a problem, are generated by our staff, our tech support organization. We're fixing problems and knocking on the door before the customer even knows there's a problem, very proactively. So, and that's reflected also in the NPS score we have. We get high marks to say, you guys are on top of what I expect or more. So we're exceeding expectations. So having this spectrum of options for a customer to decide, I'm going to do it myself, I'm going to use a partner I have, I want you to skill up my partner. Actually, we get a lot of that. Hey, you don't do business with this partner, great, we'll back them up until we get them to a point where they need to, or you can rely on us, or a mix of any. And the reality is we're really just trying to get you to the point where inspire you, light the spark, and then step away, just to make sure the outcome is going to be fortified for the customer. And we operate from a framework that, to me, a customer relationship is always in motion. So if you think about that image on the left there, kind of rotating around, the idea that there's a life cycle and a constant effort of around design and implementation, automation, operations, and what it's hopefully resulting in is an absorption of our innovation that gets expressed through the customer. And we have a suite of what we consider transform and scale through the options we have. Advisory is something that's really important and typically overlooked, and that's where most customers need advice. Again, the product's simple, but customer environments, I'm just going to say, they're complex, and a lot of times they know it, and they want us to come in and say, show us how complex we are, simplify this for us. And back to the analogy around being a service provider, you really want to invoke that constant innovation process. So, and you need the right services to do that, and then simplifying it so it really eventually runs on its own. So it's automated, and you're really just holding up a platform. You're not trying to resource the heck out of it, because we can get involved operationally within how we approach a framework, but it's really just to make sure that it's embellished rather than it's really needed to run. Once it's set, there's not that much involvement, and really what you're putting to market is a product, is a service to your internal market, which
larger outcome,
right? So larger outcome. So ultimately, we want to help you really own that product and simplify the heck out of it. And simplification and the outcomes from Pure are many, and we could obviously talk about those if we need to. But yeah, I don't think we had a slide after this, so
that's where we pull back to. Simple products. We want to simplify getting to the outcomes, even in a larger complexity landscape.
Yeah,
I think sometimes this is a piece that's near and dear to my heart. I used to do some of this kind of consulting, the whole plan the work, and then work the plan, and it goes a lot more smoothly, but not leaving out the operational side, the day to day, and the constant optimization. And the last thing I think, and this is even reflected in the comment you made, Dmitri, is people know I knew as a customer that I needed experts to help me with stuff. I don't want to have my face rubbed in it, but I knew that I needed help, kind of thing. So I bring them in.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add here, Dmitri, too, before we keep going?
A lot of times, like Lou mentioned, right, the advisory workshop is exactly what will help you to uncover, well, how can I change my environment to reap all the benefits that Pure brings? How do I optimize maybe the storage layout, right? I've seen a lot of environments that have legacy configurations that came out of the spinning media. Well, guess what? We're in the 21st century now. It's all flash, and a lot of configurations that I used to be there are no longer needed. They add extra complexity with zero benefit. So advisory workshops help us to bring you to understand what good looks like, or help you understand define what that ultimate goal of yours looks like, and then take that as an input to all subsequent stack of services that we have, where migration is just part of it, to deliver all that ultimate outcome.
So with that, I think we are actually thank you, Don. We're getting a lot of questions on challenges, which is actually literally the next section. So it feels like we planned this out well. We're following the questions, but we will close up the second poll here, and I'll share the results back relatively quickly. So most important reason you migrate to Pure, sustainability and all flash topped the list there. We did have some people who commented in the chat, which is cool, actually, about immutability and ransomware protections and safe mode. That actually follows what I say. We can only put in so many answers here. And then, of course, some of you have already migrated to Pure. Thank you for that 11%. And then when making infrastructure purchases, it actually looks like it's a health. The majority always include some PS. And then for some folks, it varies a little bit, kind of thing. So very cool to see. With that, let's go ahead and
that's awesome. So for those who do, and if they do with Pure, we're going to obviously give you a bit more behind the curtain, and we're really proud of the platform we've built and the constant innovation we're committed to by continuing to make investments. And the migration of Center of Excellence is one of them.
Olivia, if you don't mind launching poll number 3, we kept this one pretty simple. Just how large of a storage migration you've been involved in. Feel free to discuss in the chat too. But now we're driving into kind of the meat. We wanted to set things up. We always keep this a little bit light, but Dmitri especially. This is where I'm gonna look deeply into your eyes through Zoom, thinking about the migration Center of Excellence principles. And this is both your background before Pure, but also at Pure. That there are a bunch of challenges that you've navigated. I think I'll just let you take it from there about the challenges and how you've built out that whole group, that whole team and process.
Yeah, no, thank you, Andrew. I will touch up on COE story a little bit, but I'm going to start with core principles, right, which align with professional services principles that we have. So our main mission is to simplify and accelerate adoption of Pure storage in a safe and reliable way, right? So it's kind of a big sentence, but every word there means something to me. So when I say simple, we understand that our customers have their day job, right? They very few of them have a dedicated migration teams, and most of the time, what I see is, hey, I have all the other projects I'm going to focus on, and last thing I want to worry about is migration. Well, that's why we're here, right? We're here to simplify because that's what we do. Accelerate piggybacks on the previous comment. That's our job. Migration is what we live for. That's what we come here every day for. And we prepare to move as fast as needed and scale with whatever project and challenge you have for us to minimize that your time to value with Pure storage. When I mean safe, we have a couple of slides later. Let's not jump there, but we carefully vet the tools that we use. We prove them in our lab, in our partner's lab, long before we put it in actually a customer's environment to guarantee the outcomes that the tools provide. And in the critical points where the people are involved, we have peer reviews, right, to minimize the human whale people in the end of the day. And automate everything where possible, again, to minimize that insertion of a human error. And in terms of reliable, the methodology that we use been proven for decades. Automation where it makes sense, heavy reliance on standards and continuous improvements of man standards allows us to deliver migration right the first time. So those are the kind of core principles of COE when it was founded, and we stick to our mission. And what we see is, this sort of approach help us to address majority of typical challenges we see in the environment. So I'm going to go over the complexity a little bit, because complexity takes a lot of different forms, right? It could be extremely simple environment with one source, one share, but running such a complex, heavy workload that maybe 10, 15,000 people rely on, that changes on a daily basis and consists of petabytes of data and billions of files, that you wouldn't even know how to approach it, right? Configuration is super simple, the workload isn't.
Scale.
The opposite side of spectrum could be a very small data set spread across 40 different locations, and guess what? None of them have standards. So now, instead of having one approach, you got to develop 40 different approaches. Who has time for that, right? Comes with delays. Data ownership is actually a big question that is coming up, especially in environments that have been around for a while. Companies going through a number of acquisitions through years, and the nodes get lost in the transit. And when you need to, if you're trying to modernize, you don't even know who you need to talk to tell them, hey, we gotta have a maintenance window coming up. You don't know who owns your data, right? So complexity takes many, many different forms that stopping companies from implementing that important change. Is if you're not changing, you're not innovating. Another big area is business impact. So the time it requires to complete the project. Again, if you were thinking of your local resources that have day job, and now you add the migration on them, you don't want ROI to be 2 years down the line, right? You want to realize the benefits of Pure as quickly as possible. There's also worry about the impact on the user experience. How would your users going to react when you move? You want to minimize that, obviously, because most IT shops, let's face it, they don't own the data, right? It's they providing service to other businesses who rely on storage. Business interruption from downtime. Again, if you're not using the right tools and you're not using the right process, downtime will happen. I've seen it time and time again. Folks reaching out to us and say, hey, we want to minimize this disruption. Help us out. What's the process, right? And we have extremely robust process that we use that absolutely minimizes the downtime required. Last not least, big bucket is the cost. Resource cost, again, going back to your team. And can you afford to push back the initiative that you have by diverting your resources to do migration? Tooling cost, if you do it, once in a blue moon, you probably don't have agreements with enterprise tool vendors to get benefit from that, pricing, and in downtime, right? How much downtime costs to your company is a big question. So all of those sort of typical challenges that we see that come up when we solution the migration is what COE was built to address from the get-go.
Thank you.
What do we have on our next slide, Andrew?
We are on to the third poll, and we're going to jump into the last section where we are unabashedly talking about
and I think this is what I'm going to mention a little bit about COE, how it was built.
So one second there, actually, I think I'll close up and share the last poll. We'll hit pause, and then we'll just keep going. Actually, I won't even comment on this one. Dmitri or Lou, you want any comments on the polling there? I see 33 folks have done more than 5 petabytes. Kudos to you, or maybe sorry, I don't know, kind of thing, depending on. Actually, there we go. Now it's sharing.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah,
it's a range. It's a range of folks there.
It's a good range. It's a good range. I want to say that data is certainly not shrinking. If you look at global data pool, I don't know how many zettabytes we had year over year, right? So if you're gonna, I'll be very curious to see results of the same poll 5 years down the line. I bet the numbers will look very, very different.
Keeps going.
Yeah, and for us as a professional services, specifically migration service provider, we do see a lot more this 5+ migration projects that are coming in. One reason is thanks to FlashBlade and some of the solutions that we have that specifically developed for that displacement of spinning media storage, right? And luckily, we have an absolutely fantastic solution for those customers as well.
So with that, we're into the last section. We're actually roughly tracking on time, which is awesome. We try and always make it a little bit loose. But the last one is, so thank you, Dmitri, for walking through a lot of the challenges. Even I think you pulled in some of the kind of the core principles that are both the pure principles about migration, but even your own personal ones, I think, right? So your last migration, hopefully, and the reason we say that, it's a comment on Evergreen, that data Evergreen, you shouldn't have to migrate your data again for, hardware and technology reasons. You may choose to rebalance and move things around. We can help that be non-disruptive thanks to active workload on the FlashArray side, but embracing your last migration with Pure or maybe to Pure. Let's continue down the path of the global migration center of excellence. And maybe even, Dmitri, if you don't mind starting off with some of the results that you've seen based off of those principles.
Yeah. So when I actually joined Pure, right, I had this vision for the team that one of the key principles we had is the ownership of end-to-end solution, right? So we, from the conceptual stage, when we talk with you, what is your end goal looks like, all the way to the delivery. Migration Center of Excellence was also meant to be a one-stop shop for all migration needs, which requires us to collaborate with account teams, services engineering, product teams, our delivery partners, vendors, marketing, local delivery leads, project management, technical support, you name it. Like all organizations in the Pure, we have relationship with. Now, why is that? Because we built to streamline and scale, right? You can see some of the numbers for 1 year on the screen. A lot of projects completed. Every major storage vendor we know how to work with. We have either experts on the team, or we can extend to our reach out to our extended partner network to bring a specialized, unique skill set that maybe that only that environment has and nobody else, right? We still can find the resource. Any major field like healthcare, finance, so there are telco, you name it, we work with them. File block object, it doesn't scare us at all. If you want to have a conversation about how do I migrate and optimize my SQL or Oracle environment, happy to have that conversation with you. And on top of that, how do we, not optimize it and automate maybe some of the day-to-day activities as part of this project? Happy to have that as well. So when I was mentioning about tools, that carefully vetted tools, right? When we guarantee the outcomes, right? So when you reach to us and when you say, hey, Dmitri, getting Pure help us to migrate some data, we sit down with you, we understand what you're looking for. And we try to we stick to our promise, right? Hence that ownership of the solution. We say, hey, we're going to do this, and we know we can confidently do that because our solutions are vetted, right? We stick to tools that we know work in the field, that we've proven over and over again, not only with the lab but with multiple customers that we have. They have amazing companies behind them that we work with and build tight relationship with. We only use proven solutions is the bottom line, because we understand that the data is the most important asset companies have, and like you, we want to protect it. We want to protect it for you. So using right tools and resources is one of the key factors for success, but there's more to that. And the next slide sort of depicts the again, not next one.
I think actually we'll jump forward a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about framework. We'll go back to new stuff. So yeah, I could feel where you're going.
This big and scary slide that I'm not gonna read, right? But the process is that secret ingredient, right, behind the successful migration. If you know all the major steps you have to walk to get to the successful end, which if you can double click on each one of them and feel confident, then you're going to be successful at the end. The tools are just part of that, right? There's a big emphasis on doing the proper discovery, proper analysis, design and planning are the key elements of success, right? And I like to say that with successful planning comes successful execution, right? If you don't spend enough time on planning, if you jump right into, okay, let's migrate, and you're not following the process, your results will vary. I've seen it time and time again, unfortunately. So the process is something that, we carefully vetted. We know it works, and we're not skipping it. There you go.
I think even both there's core principles. There are, and we skipped this because it felt like the right flow, but there's even been some newer pieces there, some new capabilities, both that continually evaluating tools, looking at new requests from customers. You mind exploring some of what's new in this space for us?
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. And we like to innovate as well, right? Migration is never stagnant, and we continue to explore challenges with the customers who bring them to us. And one of the two recent additions to our solutions portfolio on the block side is a tool from Cirrus, a long-term partner of ours, that is an agent-based migration solution. No appliances that need to be deployed. It allows us to move the data within the same host, allows us to consolidate data centers, allows us to move data in the cloud. Well, you're already in the cloud, right? To Cloud Block Store, in most of the time completely non-disruptively, and adopting that, Pure and wrapping the benefits of Pure storage right away with minimum to no downtime to your business. And on the file and S3 side, talking to that petabyte scale, right, and supporting FlashBlade-E, we partner up with Parsec Labs that have amazing, extremely fast appliance and some unique hooks into Pure architecture as well, that allows us to move extremely challenging and complex workloads to Pure in record times. So those are some of the more recent capabilities that we have. But like I mentioned, we continue to innovate, we continue to explore and address the needs of our customers. So if you have a specific unique challenge of the environment that stopping you from innovation, please reach out to us. We're happy to have a conversation, see if we have a solution for you.
And Andrew, I'd be remiss to say, our Cloud Block Store platform and why Cirrus is so important. When you put something like Cirrus and our Cloud Block Store together, if you don't know our value proposition around Cloud Block Store, we can save upwards to 50% of what you're spending on storage in AWS or Azure. We can do it fast and non-disruptively with both the software platform and our methods. So definitely compelling. It's one of those things that, when you get to Cloud Block Store, there's a lot of technical features there that the scope of that interest becomes very narrow because it's not as broad as the business, but the cost savings is quite, we'll get the right eyeballs and frankly, it's budget you're already spending. So it's something you can really look to optimize, and we can help you get there.
Make money, save money, lower risk. Feels like it hits
go.
in those. You were saying that earlier. I was thinking it. The one other, I want to toss back to you in 1 second, Lou. I just can't let this go by. Seeing rsync on here just makes my heart so happy. I was writing longer bash scripts than I should have, calling rsync to synchronize and back up lots of Linux servers years back, and it's still around. Look at that. I'm not totally out of touch.
It made you smile.
Yeah, there you go. But all of this pulls back around, I think, actually not quite where we started, but just about. We started with some of the ideas of outcomes.
Yep.
And I almost renamed this to quickly realize benefits of transformation to it's all about the outcomes. Maybe you see that in there. But maybe Don, do you mind, Lou? Man, I did it at the end. I almost did it right.
That's perfect. Don is such a unique individual. I would never want to take anything away from him by taking any attention to his name. He's such a beautiful human. So when you
bring us home with the outcomes.
There you go. Why customers are going down this path towards Pure, and one heavily is sustainability. It's not only do more with less with staff, it's do more with less with the space and the power and everything else you have. And the sustainability outcomes are really unmatched for us. And because we've taken the time and we made that bet, and a really good one now that the market has validated that all flash performance is all flash performance, because we have direct-to-flash management and a really simplified software platform that rides that. And that is a commitment for the portfolio to stay that simple. And easily, again, I have this hopefully my concept translate is like your organization's trying to absorb the innovation we're putting out there. We have innovation that's 3 years ahead of the market. That's validated by external parties. That's not our words. And that's what customers want to grab onto. We want to help them get to it quickly. And then, why we were born is to avoid maintenance fees. You don't need another migration. That's why we're saying it. Migrate once, and you don't have to worry about storage anymore. There's no more concept of a forklift. And hopefully we sent you that message that we're giving you as much choice as possible. Yes, we have a PS organization because that's sometimes a valid choice, but we're really just a spark to light the fire for the customer, for our partners, and for the market to really take advantage of all these outcomes.
And Lou, I want to add that avoid maintenance fees is also important, not in the context of, hey, let's displace your old storage. We also have migration solutions that allow you to do that quickly without the disruption too. Right. So if you interested, again, reach out. We're happy to have a chat with you and how we can help you.
Hey, George, this is Lou. Andrew. There's a question in the
we'll do Q&A in just a minute here, actually.
Okay,
so
okay.
We're going to get the drawing, and then we'll jump to the Q&A. So thank you, Don, and appreciate your holding down the chat there. So thank you all so much. We are now just about at the end. We're going to do the drawing, and then we'll jump into Q&A, the ones that we'll pull up some of the ones that haven't been answered, that already even were answered yet. Dmitri, Lou, thank you so much for jumping in the boat with me. I knew that we'd cover a lot from your background to Pure's professional philosophy. Dmitri, I love some of the story and the history there, and even the principles of there's complexity here, but it can be done well. It can get you to where you want to go, and we're here to help with that. There is a final poll which we'll toss in, Olivia, if you don't mind launching that. And this is actually just a little bit of having some fun. Curious about how many folks have been coming. I think we can say this publicly. This is actually a high mark. We're easily past the 2,000 mark of folks joining us today. So really appreciate that being public. So thank you for joining us and listening in. At that point, it's not just all about the coffee cart. It's also about the content too, fortunately. There is a drawing, though, in case you came for that. The Ember 12-ounce travel mug. And the winner is Keith W. from Illinois. Keith, Olivia will be in touch with you. Or possibly, I know she takes vacation sometimes too, so it might even be somebody else from marketing. So, thank you very much, Keith, for attending. You'll be hearing soon as well. Please make sure to join us again next month. You can see the QR code. Olivia, if you don't mind tossing the link in the chat there. To register for next month with Jason Walker and Matt Bradford, a little bit about how you think about putting together presentations and demos and content, and then diving into the actual demos of what we've been doing. And now, actually, we're not going to do the poll results. We'll let that sit open for a minute. And now Q&A. So actually, Don, I will look here to see the ones that are open, but feel free to highlight any that you want to, or I'll start going through.
Well, we had a lot about challenges, and I think you addressed them. I haven't seen any re-asks, but the one that neither Simon or I wanted to answer and wanted to let Dmitri maybe weigh in is, what are the management and monitoring capabilities of Pure Storage Solutions? So I'm going to click Answer Live, and you guys can do that.
I can take a swing at that, but I'm happy to let you go first, Dmitri, if you want to, or Lou too. Either way. Well,
Andrew, you can chime in for sure. I definitely appreciate help with this. Pure One is the portal where you can see your entire fleet, right? And you can see the stats of every box, every array that you have on the floor that sends the telemetry back to Pure. It's an obvious answer. You can extend those capabilities through some modules that we have developed actually in PS that help you to send that telemetry to other common management and monitoring platforms within your environment. And Lou, I don't know if you have those, what we support today handy, or maybe do something we can answer offline as well. And in addition to that, there are other ways you can extend what you potentially could be missing from those through automation and scripting as well. So there's a variety of instruments that we have that either available right out of the box, or with PS, we can help you to integrate much deeper and with whatever level you're looking for. Now, I do want to mention, though, is on this management and monitoring piece, you might be surprised how little you actually want to get you want to monitor Pure, right? Migration is kind of unique space that allows me to see everything, right? We see how things are configured in the field on third-party arrays as we move to Pure storage, for example, right? That's a load that arrays typically don't see, right? So we have to monitor performance and whatnot. And I was surprised coming from other platforms and vendors is how little they actually need to worry about, some of the things that, I would lose sleep over in the past. So I just wanted to throw it in there. Andrew, Lou, anything you want to add?
Tag in a little bit. So Pure One, glad you mentioned it. That's amazing. There's lots there. We can kick things out in various ways. We've got open metrics exporter. Of course, there's things like syslog. I've got a customer that, because everything is available via API on the platforms, built some amazing Splunk dashboards on their own. They really went to town with it because you could pull it all out of the APIs. There's even APIs out of Pure One too, much less a good bit of stuff that we build and we can help with from a PS standpoint. So there's a wealth of stuff there. And if anything, I feel like we should have we should have tipped to whoever asked that question. Now I can't see who it is, but we didn't set it up. So Lou, please.
It was anonymous, and I gave a real quick typed answer, which is we do have something. The platform has compatibility for an existing. No, you don't have to extend any more cost to it, but there is a more nuanced solution, a really deeper solution that we've built within PS that can help create adaptation to manager solutions, or the platform itself has a lens and visibility into deeper metrics and more real-time information that the customer may need.
I should have mentioned what I still think of as vRealize operations. Now it's ARIA, I want to say, from VMware operations. There's integration in there. Yeah, so whoever asked that question, please reach out to your Pure team, because I'm betting we hit on something that applies to your environment, but not every single thing we listed. So reach out and we can definitely dig deeper, but there's a wealth there. That was a great question. So let me,
Andrew.
Yeah, I'm just
to interrupt again.
I'll keep going on the questions there if that's all right, Don.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at them. So
Okay.
the one I want to kind of embrace, I think, from a little bit of a topical standpoint. This is from John. Thank you, John. I'm going to adapt the question a little bit to a topic. So using the word about guarantees, I'm going to more say goals and aspirations, because I'm always careful about the word guarantees. But let's explore maybe the idea of automation as it relates to migration, and even automation as it relates to the post-migration operations. Because if I jump back in the slides here, we talked about this some, where we're embracing the idea that there's operational engagement afterwards. So I'll kind of make this a jump ball to Dmitri or Lou as far as automation as it relates to the migration process, and as well to maybe operationally too. After
right. So let me start us off. Lou, chime in if you don't mind. So when we're talking about the migration and automation in the same context, I like to stick to the outcomes that we discussing, in the solutioning phase. And a lot of times for us to get to such outcomes, we need to bring automation with us to deliver on our promise and our commitment, right? And automation allows us to scale. First and foremost, it scales, minimizing errors, move very quickly. For example, if you want to adopt VMware environment and move it, let's say move it all to Pure, how do you do that if you have 15,000 virtual machines, for example, right? How long is it going to take? Do you really want to right click and move each VM one at a time? Well, good luck. I'll talk to you in a couple of years, right? When you're done. And you're probably going to pull all your hair out because it's such a repeating task. Now, we have automation to address some of those, right? Some of those large scale items. This is the automation that we on the team use. Because we stick to the outcome, the automation is most of the time developed by our team, for our team, not for end customer use. That's when in the context of data migration. Now, there's other aspect of it, Andrew, that you touched on. Now, what happens after? Do you guys have any automation after migration is complete? Or maybe it's a process, you move your first workload, now you want to operate, you want to provision, you want to streamline your DR failover capabilities and so on. That automation is absolutely something we do today. Lou, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about guarantees and so we interact on a level of like full accountability. It's expressed in a statement of work, and our expertise, and part of the reason for the Migration Center of Excellence is because there's this constant iterative sort of library of how to constantly mitigate customer risk. So, the more customers we go through, we do learn things in the field. We also learn things in a lab, and we're taking all that learning, and that is one of the key factors of we put it right back out to bring the value back out to our customers. So our method really understands how to create a guarantee of sorts by mitigating your risk with the deep level of expertise. And then, with that level of, well, where do you want to take we've simplified potentially for you, and now do you want to automate something maybe you didn't have the opportunity to before? And yes, within the migration process, there's tons of automation that we're building, but it's really trying to help you build a service delivery platform that gets you a quicker outcome for your business. Example, the common conversation is about how long it takes to provision storage for a developer. And we can make that just completely disrupt your own internal product to offer something that hopefully helps your business disrupt the direction you're going.
I think I'm going to do a little bit of dealer's choice here. There's one question that was not in. We have, for those who are still on, thank you for staying on. This is where we let our hair down. It's a little bit more relaxed. We're done the official content. We're just answering questions. There was one here, and you because you also alluded to this earlier, Lou. It was in the chat. I think I'm getting to the spot about, does pure cloud block storage, or cloud block store is the name of the product, but our storage product in the cloud, give data reduction where Azure does not?
Yeah.
And I'm going to expand that. The answer is yes, just because the cloud storage products weren't built with that design point in mind. Pure was. So instead of answering all of it, I'll let you keep going there, Lou, because you were already thinking it earlier, I know.
I mean, here's the story, right? I mean, those organizations are fantastic and great. They've done amazing things, and the size of the market is gigantic, but they don't have the time to spend, 30 years in the storage industry to create the intellectual property that gets the enterprise features we all know we need. And fortunately, that bet was made early on, and it takes a really long time to get there. Will those platforms get there? Maybe, but doesn't look like any foreseeable future, which is why you can really optimize right now in this present moment and do it in a way that usually will fit. You'll get a lot of nodding heads when we pitch this value proposition to every stakeholder that has to make a decision. It's a lot of yeses, and we again recommended or mentioned one of those tools that's an absolute accelerant and a turbocharge to the process to get you there.
I think with that, we will call it a wrap. If you have a question that wasn't answered, please feel free to reach out. Being real, sometimes there's questions we pull forward for the live discussion. Sometimes we can answer them online, but you can always reach out to your Pure Storage team. A great question earlier was, how do I engage with professional services? I'm pretty sure you can find Lou and Dmitri on LinkedIn. They've got whole teams of people that help support and do this stuff, but they're good at more than webinars, right? They do this stuff, but you can engage through your AE, your Pure AE, your SE to help pull in the professional services team. Please make sure to join us again next month, where Jason Walker will be hosting Matt Bradford. Again, Lou and Dmitri, thank you so much for joining me this month. I really appreciate it. I'll let you have any final words to bring us home.
I love coffee. I want my cup now. I stuck with water, and I should have had coffee.
Your energy level was good, Dmitri.
I wanted to thank everybody for excellent questions and for such a great participation in polling. I really enjoyed. This. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you on behalf of.
Andrew, you do a fantastic job, and I think it's just the culture here is just so great, and we have this kind of loose discussion. I hope customers really get a value out of it from the results we talked about. Seems like they do, and that's really great. And thank you to every customer and prospect that considers Pure or works with us already. We really appreciate it.
Encapsulate a little bit of that culture in this format. Yeah, keep going, Dmitri.
One last comment. I really love this mug, but it doesn't keep my tea hot. So it's already cold. I need to get.
Yeah, he wants one of those. Yeah,
I appreciate you sacrificing to be on brand and on logo for the session here. So look at you. Good for you. With that, I think we'll call it a wrap. Thank you all so much for joining us today. From myself, Lou, Dmitri, the entire Coffee Break team. Hope to see you next month, and hope that you have a great afternoon, week, month.
Take care, everybody.
Happy holidays.